Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to sit back and enjoy this 40th anniversary celebration of St. James the Apostle Catholic Church. Here to help welcome you is Bishop Joseph Imesh of the Joliet Diocese.
It's a pleasure to express congratulations on this 40th anniversary for the people of St. James. You know you have a wonderful community. I've been there on a number of occasions to dedicate the new church, for several confirmations, and frequently for November 1st All Saints' Day Masses. One of my favorite recollections is when I was asking the kids questions about All Saints' Day, and I said that tomorrow is also a very special day. What is tomorrow? And this little second grader waved his hand. I said, okay. He said, it's Hot Dog Day. And since I am a great fan of hot dogs, I said, you're right, that is a great day. Hot Dog Day is a special day. Today is a special day for your community. You are a community of faith, of energy and vitality. I'm grateful to Father John Alper for the wonderful ministry he carries on all by himself, which means that you have to be involved also in the parish community. That's what it means to be a church. So I congratulate you and look forward to being with you for this special anniversary.
And it was a great day back in 1965. Do you remember what was going on in the world? The top movie was The Sound of Music. Lyndon Johnson was President of the United States. And on the 4th of July, St. James the Apostle Church celebrated its first Mass.
I would like to thank you for taking the time to celebrate our 40th anniversary as a parish. Rooted in faith and growing our future is a great part of who we are. We gather here at the Tabernacle, the cornerstone of our parish, to remember that we are a Eucharistic community. Rooted in faith is our past, an incredible history and tradition that reminds us that our past has been blessed by God because of the sacrifices of many who've gone before us. Now we look to the future. We look to growing our future as young families continue to move into our community and young people gather around the Eucharist. This is a time to celebrate. It is a time to remember who we are.
St. James the Apostle Church officially came into being when Father Tom Fleming celebrated its first Mass on July 4, 1965, in the chapel at Maryknoll Seminary. The community gathered at Maryknoll for Sunday Masses until the church was completed 2 years later. The site of what was now the church building was formerly a cornfield. Construction of the first church building started on March 29, 1966, and began on St. James School in September that same year. Both were completed in 1967. Mass was celebrated in the church building for the first time on Easter Sunday, March 29, 1967. The church was dedicated on August 13, 1967, by Bishop Romeo Blanchette. Father Fleming was pastor from 1965 until 1971. Recalling that church started with a $150,000 debt and no known resources, Father Fleming reminisces.
So I was reading the scriptures and I came across Hebrews chapter 16, verse 8. And that passage says, I am Jesus Christ. I'm the same today as I was yesterday and will be the same forever. So I thought about that and I said, well, Lord, you're my new partner. Let us thank God that He continued to bless this parish family.
The church school opened in September 1967 with Sister Mary Patricia as our first school principal.
And then in 1966, I was at the right place at the right time. I happened to walk into our Parish's office, and she looked at me kind of strangely, and she said, how would you like to be principal of St. James? And I feel so gifted that I had three wonderful pastors, Father Fleming, Father Lennon, and Father Joyce. And I felt very accepted, and both by the school parents and particularly the children. It was, when I did leave St. James, I thought that maybe somebody could do something more creative than I with the curriculum. And I left, and it was a very sad day when I left St. James. And so when I come back now, however, it's like coming back like a grandmother to her children.
Sister Irene, now pastoral minister at St. James, also recalls the early days.
Groups at St. James at that time, so I had 4 ladies discussion groups during the day, and then we started the senior citizens with Mary, Carrie, and Aunt Russ. And this year, they both died in the same year, so we have to start this year without them. But they were the first two that started the senior citizens, Young at Heart. We called them Young at Heart. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful ministry, and I absolutely love it.
So the Benedictines of Sacred Heart Monastery in Lisle have fond memories of St. James. We hold you as precious in our hearts and in our prayers.
One very active parishioner who has also been involved from the very beginning is Marge Giangreco. She was named St. James CCW Woman of the Year in 1976. As she reflects on the past 40 years, the thing that stands out most vividly is the importance of volunteering.
In January of 1967, my husband Vince and I moved into the newly founded parish named St. James the Apostle, who was founded by Father Tom Fleming. A year later, I became very active in many of the committees and organizations because being a new parish, we needed many, many organizations that were being founded, and we needed many volunteers. I have been a volunteer for many years, and in my early years, I did a lot, but now in my later years, I don't do as much as I did. I volunteered in my early years at St. James, and I was very proud to be able to be a volunteer, and I was involved in many of the different committees and organizations. One thing I learned about volunteering is to be involved because people need us. And also I learned that happiness is caring.
Volunteerism is every bit as important today as it was 40 years ago. Patty Stefanski, a parishioner for 15 years, was named St. James CCW 2005 Woman of the Year. She talks about why St. James is the family focal point for her and her husband, Bill, and their 3 children.
I first began at St. James to get involved as a Eucharistic minister, and then through the years I've joined many other ministries. I am currently the Vice President of CCW and was honored this year to be named CCW Woman of the Year in our Jubilee year, and was represented our parish at a special Mass with Bishop Imish. Through being involved with a variety of ministries, I've gotten to know many, many people at the parish. Getting involved was how we became connected to and part of the community. So many good things happen here at St. James, and the people are wonderful. There's really something here for everyone. We are blessed to be part of such a vibrant community that is so Christ-centered.
Our second pastor, who served at St. James from June of 1971 until 1978, was Father James Lennon. The parish has grown from its initial 450 families to more than 700 families. The parish was teeming with activity. In 1978, the parish center, consisting of meeting rooms, a gymnasium, kitchen, and religious education office, was completed. The meeting rooms were given the name of Seton Hall in honor of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, who was canonized near the time when the building was completed.
And I was the second pastor of St. James in Glen, Ellyn from 1971 to 1978. It was during that time at my first pastorate that I met a wonderful, loving, faith-filled, and prayerful community. Most of the couples were young at that time, raising their families, deeply committed to the ideals of Catholic education for their children and religious education, and deeply imbued with the wonderful spirit of faith. What I particularly remember about the people of St. James, both the young and the old, is their willingness to respond to a need at any time. I never felt as though I was imposing upon them when I'd ask them to assist either in the school, in the religious education program, or in the parish. I have many wonderful, fond, and happy memories, naturally St. James being my first parish. And even though it's been many years, I still have some wonderful, fond memories and can always feel at home when I return to St. James. May God bless all of you, keep you healthy and happy, and bless your children, that we all stay close to the Lord that we love.
As parishioners became familiar with each other and friendships evolved, the church became the focal point for family involvement. The annual New Year's Eve and St. Patrick's Day parties were packed to overflowing, and women from the CCW would work together for months, making handmade items to sell at the Christmas bazaar. When Father Lennon left, we welcomed Father Joyce, parish priest who passed away in 2004. Here you see him with Sister Irene, who was named Woman of the Year in 1984. As the parish entered the 1990s, it became apparent to the parish council that a new church building was needed to accommodate its growth to nearly 2,700 families. Father John Sebahar became the fourth pastor of St. James in 1990. He was especially happy to serve during the time that St. James School added kindergarten to its curriculum. He served throughout a highly ambitious capital campaign in the construction of a new church building.
Another area that was very important, I feel, when I was here was the addition of lay ministries in the program of our parish, especially the ministry of readers. We had several people who came into the program, and it really made a difference in the relationship between people, because it was much more friendly, much more open in the work of the church. And I was very blessed to have so many good, dedicated people who worked in the church and who supported the building of the new church. And I was very blessed to be able to retire after completion of the building.
As Father Sebahar points out, religious education is and always has been a focal point of St. James. It extends to all ages of parishioners and is carried on through a variety of classes and programs, such as catechism instruction, Bible study, children's worship, and RCIA. Judy Glander, Director of Religious Education, talks about her experience at St. James.
We say that parish is the life. St. James is life. Life is Christ. Therefore, St. James is Christ. I've seen Christ on the face of the little children. I've seen Christ, the teacher, in the temple, on the faces of the boys and girls, the teens who work in liturgy of the word and in our programs as aides. I've seen Christ the teacher. I've seen Christ the servant. I've seen Christ the good shepherd in the leaders that we have had at St. James, Father Joyce, Father Sebahar, and Father Oper. Christ is life. Life is Christ. St. James is Christ. Thank you.
A relatively recent new member, Kurt Klesley, talks about how religious education, and especially RCIA, was a big factor in his involvement with St. James.
I actually came to St. James as a Lutheran, and about 2 years into coming here, I decided it would make sense to go through RCIA and see what that's all about. And I did, and it was a great experience. And then after I got through RCIA, one of the suggestions was to take an action and get involved with the church. And so I started counting offerings with a team of guys once a month, and started my contribution there. But after I was doing that for a while, I thought there was a little bit more that I could do, and I signed up to be a Eucharistic minister, which has been a really neat experience. Since then, I have 3 daughters, and 2 of them are going to St. James now, and I have 1 starting up after preschool. So we actually had moved to another house in Glen, Ellyn, and I gave my realtor a map, and I said, here's 3 miles outside of the church. This is the only place that we're going to look for a house, because the church has actually become a center of our family.
Kurt and his wife, and indeed most parishioners, creatively tackle the funding challenges faced by all private schools. Since 2003, St. James has hosted a 5K race walk September called For Those Who Seek Wisdom and Knowledge 5,000. Along with generous sponsors, parishioners have raised thousands of dollars for our school and for other Catholic schools in even greater need of funding. The school students are not the only young people whose lives St. James embraces with love and enthusiasm. Through our very active youth ministry, children of all ages are nurtured both physically and spiritually with a variety of programs. The youth group has touched many lives through many different programs, ranging from picking up litter, to a hunger strike to benefit the homeless, to working on reservations in New Mexico. In addition to the youth group, St. James hosts many service groups that extend the love of Jesus Christ throughout our families, our neighborhoods, our communities, and beyond. The quilting ministry makes beautiful quilts, which they distribute to St. James homebound parishioners, and baby quilts for the Birthright organization. St. James gathers food for the Glen Ellyn Food Pantry, which provides food to more than 900 people throughout the year. And through the work of St. Vincent de Paul Society, St. James parishioners donate household goods and clothing, and even automobiles to those in need. One apostolate that has endured for the past 35 Advent seasons is the St. James Christmas Basket Program. Each holiday season, a large van full of donated food has left St. James just prior to Christmas for the less fortunate families in Chicago and West Chicago. Where do the people of St. James find the nourishment they need to fuel the many ways in which they are of service to others? The core of our St. James experience is the worship service.
We also come together as a people of faith.
Not only the pastor, but a host of others as well, help bring the Word of God alive through the Eucharist. At each of the Masses, the community of St. James participates in meaningful ways as altar servers, Eucharistic ministers and liturgists, and ushers in the Knights of Columbus. St. James is gifted with many talented musicians and leaders, the addition which greatly enriches the sacred experience of the Mass. Over the last 40 years, the St. James Parish community has truly lived out and experienced the words from the prayer of St. Francis. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. We, the parishioners of St. James, are widely diverse in how we experience the love of God and in how we participate in the parish. Some people participate in church committees or attend special events. Some quietly attend Mass and then carry their individual gifts out to the world in different ways, through kindness to their colleagues, fair treatment of their employees, honest dealings with the public, treading lightly on the environment, reducing materialism, each in our own special way. Jesus said, "As you did this to the least of my brethren, you did it for me."
On Holy Thursday night, we gather as a community to remind ourselves all that Jesus did at the Last Supper. John's Gospel is read and proclaimed, and in that proclamation, we hear that Jesus took the time to wash the feet of his disciples. As we look at our past and our future, we realize that that call to service and that call to ministry is pivotal to who we are becoming. We are one faith community, centered in the Eucharist, centered in Jesus' example to serve one another. As we ask God's blessing for the years ahead, we ask Him to always keep us mindful and humble in the experience of Jesus washing the feet. May this be our guide as we continue to draw closer to Him and as He draws closer to our future. May God bless you. May God bless your families. And may God bless the rich traditions of our parish.
Good evening. For those of you who might not know me, I'm Father Jim Lennon, and I was the second pastor of St. James in Glen, Ellyn from 1971 to 1978. It was during that time at my first pastorate that I met a wonderful, loving, faith-filled, and prayerful community. Most of the couples were young at that time, raising their families, deeply committed to the ideals of Catholic education for their children and religious education, and deeply imbued with the wonderful spirit of faith. What I particularly remember about the people of St. James, both the young and the old, is their willingness to respond to a need at any time. I never felt as though I was imposing upon them when I'd asked them to assist either in the school, in the religious education program, or in the parish. I have many wonderful, fond, and happy memories. Naturally, St. James being my first parish. The one thing that will always be in my mind and memory is the love and support that I had from the people of St. James when my mother and father died within a period of 8 months. It was during that very difficult time when we were building the addition, the gym, Seton Hall, the administration offices, and I was running back and forth between the hospital and Joliet, and how the people and my associates picked up the slack and carried on. I can never be grateful enough and thankful to all of them for that wonderful support. At the time I left St. James and went to St. Peter and Paul in Naperville in 1978, many people said, "Father, it almost seems unfair that you're moving. You just finished the new building in March and now you're leaving in June." But as I said, in responding to the requests of the bishops and the need of the diocese, I felt that in a very special way, I took the people of St. James with me. And even though it's been many years, I still have some wonderful, fond memories and can always feel at home when I return to St. James. I am particularly saddened, if I might say this evening, that I am not able to be with you as you celebrate the 40th. Father John Oper, your present pastor, had sent me an invitation months ago, hoping that I could join all of you this evening. However, it is coinciding with our 10th anniversary for our St. Patrick Shamrock Gala here in Joliet for our own school benefit. This is an annual dinner dance at which time we have anywhere from 300 to 350 couples to support the school. So I'm certainly going to be with you in spirit, in heart, in mind, and in prayer. And for those of you who remember me, I continue to ask your prayers and to thank you for the wonderful support that I always felt during my years at St. James. May God bless all of you, keep you healthy and happy, and bless your children, that we all stay close to the Lord that we love.
I am Father Tom Fleming. I was ordained in 1955 and retired in 1997. I was the founding pastor of St. James the Apostle Parish in Glen, Ellyn, Illinois. In May of 1965, Bishop Martin McNamara called me to his office, and he told me, he says, "You're the new pastor, the founding pastor of St. James the Apostle in Glen, Ellyn. You'll have territory cut off from St. Petronil and some from St. Joan of Arc. And I want you to go up there and find a place to say Mass, and also to instruct the people, and the children particularly, about the faith." So I went home. I was awestruck. I said, "Where in God's name do I start?" After the bishop had continued on, "You have a $150,000 debt, and start from there. Also with a subsidy at St. Francis High School, which I can't tell you what will be at this present time. And I want you to build a church and a school, and to do it as best and as quickly as you possibly can." I said, "Well, Bishop, how much money are you going to give me to start?" He said, "Well, nothing." He says, "What you'll have is this $150,000 debt and the subsidy." "Well, where am I going to live?" He said, "I don't know. Go find a place." So I went back to the parish where I was stationed at the time as administrator at St. Martin's in Kankakee. I sat in my chair that night, and awesomely, it was going through my mind, what do I do? So I was reading the scriptures, and I came across Hebrews chapter 16, verse 8. And that passage says, I am Jesus Christ. I'm the same today as I was yesterday, and will be the same forever. So I thought about that, and I said, well, Lord, you're my new partner. You're going to have to help me with this task, as I see is awesome. And I just don't know where to start. But I know that you will inspire me when and how. So the bishop said I should find a place to say Mass, as I mentioned. And so I went over to the Mariannol Seminary, and I asked the rector there if he would rent the church to me on weekends so I could gather the people together for this new parish family. He was most congenial, and he says, no problem. So I said, well, I got to find out how many people are in the parish. There was a big seminary there. There were about I think there was almost 200 or 300 seminarians there. So I said, how about lending me the seminarian so I can go out and take the census to find out how many people there actually are. So we took the census, and we found out that we had about 450 families to 500 families, not exactly sure. So then we started to put it all together and make parish files. After that, we started to build, got a contractor, an architect, and so on. And then I gathered all the people together. I would meet with them, what I call the pastor's hour, every 3 months, the newcomers. Because it was a growing area in this section of Glen Ellyn that was new, and you might call it virgin territory. So I asked the people as they came along, and I became familiar with them, well, are you willing to do this or to do that? And you're in charge of this and you're in charge of that, when they would volunteer. I said, that's God's sign that he wants you once you volunteered. So you're in charge now. So we built those bricks, establishing a parish family with those bricks, starting a parish family. And we progressed, and we decided that our parish was going to be supported not by a fund drive, but that we would follow the scriptures, and that we would support the parish by tithing, by giving a certain percentile of our monthly income. The scripture suggested 10%. And then divide that if you have your children in the Catholic school or you have other obligations towards the faith of the church. So we gathered, you might call it was a premature thing, but it was like a parish council. I picked out men and women to assist with the parish family, and they were coming from all over the place. It came from the east and the west, the north and the south. And it seems the biggest contingent was Sears and Roebuck. Sears and Roebuck had half of their sales force living in St. James the Apostle Parish. So someone mentioned one day, gee, this is the peddler's parish. And it seems that all you got here are Sears and Roebuck people. But we had people from all walks of life, all professions of life. And what a marvelous group was gelling together to start this parish family. The Sisters of St. Benedict from Lisle, and I believe at the time there were 5, and Sister Mary Patricia Fallon was the superior. We started instructing the children. And then building went on. And we didn't have the building finished until, that's the school and the church, until 1967. And we dedicated it on the Feast of the Assumption, August the 15th. The parish then was growing, and there were all kinds of organizations. And many people would come to our parish and see the marvelous cooperation that was going on, that everybody had a responsibility. No one was exempted. If you remember the parish, you had to do your part willingly, and everybody did. It was a great experience for me to see the generosity of the people with their time and their talent. And by the time I was there until 1971, I was transferred to St. Joseph's Parish in Downers Grove. At that time, there was over 1,000 families. I think we bordered on between 1,100 and 1,200. Those days in my priesthood were the happiest days of my life. I shall never forget them. This was my first parish as pastor, and I would say it was my first love. The love was there then, and it's still there, and it will perdure forever into eternity. And since then, now I'm retired. I celebrated 50 years in the priesthood and 42 years in active ministry and 7 years as a circuit rider. So here I am now at St. John Vianney Villa, waiting for the Lord to call me. And always I will remember, Lord, I'm so thankful that you, through my bishop, Bishop Martin McNamara, picked me to be the first pastor of St. James the Apostle Parish in Glen, Ellyn. And thank you, and congratulations to everyone who was presently a parishioner, to all of the people who have been parishioners, because I'm sure there's a big spot in their heart of their love for St. James Parish. And on this solemn occasion, let us thank God that He continue to bless this parish family.
Second. I would like to think about some of the highlights of my years as pastor at St. James Church, and I guess the biggest and most important for me was the friendliness and the support that the people gave in the parish. I was very overwhelmed by the generosity of the people. In fact, when we went to build our new church, we had over $500,000 on deposit at the diocese, and that enabled us to build our new parking lot before we even began our church. And one of the other highlights that I felt was rather important in my time at St. James was the addition of the kindergarten to our school. And that when I came in 1990, the staff decided that it would be beneficial for us to put in a kindergarten. So we were generously given the faculty lounge, which we turned into a kindergarten, and then we converted 2 storage rooms over by the boiler room into the new faculty lounge. And it was a leap of faith for the teachers, but then eventually it really helped us to increase our roles in the school, and in fact gave us a waiting list for the school for the first time. And perhaps the other highlight that I feel was very important was we began to use the religious ed coordinator as a consultant for the school's religious program. And by doing that, we opened the resources of our religious ed program to the school, and it really helped to bring the two different groups together and made our parish much more of a community. And another area that was very important, I feel, when I was here was the addition of lay ministries in the program of our parish, especially the ministry of readers. We had several people who came into the program, and it really made a difference in the relationship between people, because it was much more friendly, much more open in the work of the church. And I was very blessed to have so many good, dedicated people who worked in the church and who supported the building of the new church. And I was very blessed to be able to retire after completion of the building.
I'm Sister Mary Patricia, and my first introduction to St. James was when Father Fleming called and asked if a sister could come and teach the First Communion class, which was being held at Marino. And a few of the ladies who were doing it didn't feel quite adequate, so I ended up starting at St. James in that way. So I was there for 2 years, and I kind of started to know the people and the like. And then in 1966, I was at the right place at the right time. I happened to walk into our Parish office, and she looked at me kind of strangely, and she said, "How would you like to be principal of St. James?" Sister Marceline had been assigned as principal, and she had had a few meetings with them, and she felt that she would rather be elsewhere as a teacher, continue as a teacher. And I was very excited because I had been principal in Chicago at our St. Vitus on 18th and Paulina, and Our Lady of Lourdes on 15th and Keeler for the past several years. And then I came to take over formation of sisters with temporary vows. So it just worked out fine. I went to St. James and was in on the beginnings of the diocese, which actually started as a diocese probably 65 to 66. And I was able to use my resources from Chicago, all the policies and things they have, because the diocese for the school system wasn't quite with it. And I feel so gifted that I had 3 wonderful pastors, Father Fleming, Father Lennon, and Father Joyce. And I felt very accepted, and both by the school parents and particularly the children. It was, when I did leave St. James, I thought that maybe somebody could do something more creative than I with the curriculum. And I left, and it was a very sad day when I left St. James. And so when I come back now, however, it's like coming back like a grandmother to her children. No discipline, just happy moments, seeing your smiling faces and being with you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sister Irene, and I'm presently still working at St. James Parish since '72. And I too, like Sister Patricia, I think I was in the right place at the right time. Sister Patricia came to me and said, "You know, Sister Irene, Father Lennon would like, he's going to ask our prioress if there's a sister that would like to work with the sick and with the elderly and discussion groups and women, and you've been wanting to do something like that on a regular basis, so maybe you could approach Sister Charlotte at the time." And was it Sister Charlotte? Yeah, Sister Charlotte at the time. And so I did, and so then I had an interview with Father Lennon, and this was the first time in the diocese that a sister was going to work in pastoral ministry like this. So I really started out on, the basis of this ministry in the Joliet diocese. And so in the beginning, I started the census of the parish in Foxcroft. That was the newest subdivision at the time, and I went from door to door, door to door, June 1st, 1972, and I interviewed the people, and I had a lot of funny experiences. A lot of people came back to the church because of that, because, you know, we explained things, and so I did that way up to November until the weather started changing, and I couldn't, you know, walk outside anymore. But that was a wonderful experience for me to get to know the people and for them to get to know me. And so then I went to the hospitals. Went with Father Ellyn. He showed me the ropes of how to, you know, go to the hospitals where they were. And we started discussion groups at St. James at that time. So I had 4 ladies discussion groups during the day. And then we started the senior citizens with Mary, Carey, and Ann Russ. And this year, they both died in the same year, so we have to start this year without them. But they were the first two that started the senior citizens, Young at Heart. We called them Young at Heart. And then I was in on everything. I used to go to all the board meetings, the RE. I used to help Sister Cabrini at that time with the RE program, and just to get the feel of the whole parish. So I did a CCW. I did almost everything in the parish just to get a feel of, and then all of a sudden, you know, like right now, what I zero in on is pastoral ministry to the homebound and the sick and the elderly right now. But it was a wonderful, wonderful couple years of experience getting to know the whole parish. And at that time, of course, it was much smaller. And at that time, the sisters were teaching in school, and so we used to ride together. We used to have a car. We used to go together. We share that car.
Yeah.
We had a lot of funny experiences going back and forth, and it was fun because I had somebody to go and
At that time, and even going to the Mr. and Mrs. Club doings in the evening, or CCW, we had many exciting adventures, getting stuck in the snow and the ice, and the sisters particularly. I know the Sister Mary Regis and Sister Cabrini, and later we had Sister Leonardis and Audrey and Celine and Lois Jean ended up with the school. Sister Sharon Marie ended up also with the school in 1980 when I left for other pastures. I ended up being assistant principal at St. Joan of Arc in Lisle, and I'm enjoying that experience also. That's the years of my semi-retirement.
And you know, so many times people ask me, you know, you've been there 33 years now. Aren't you tired of it? And don't you get depressed? And my answer always is no. I'm not tired of it. I went through Father Lennon as pastor, Father Joyce, Father Sebahar, and now Father Ober, and all the other priests and deacons. So I always had a different staff to work with. And then with the sick, I got to know so many wonderful people and their families. And I'm working with different people all the time. No 2 days are ever alike. And so my work is never boring. And I don't get depressed because every day I come home and we have prayers together. And there are a lot of suffering people, but I always ask God to bless them. I can't do any more than visit them. And so I give them over to God. And I feel like He takes over where, you know, we can't do everything. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful ministry, and I absolutely love it.
So the Benedictines of Sacred Heart Monastery in Lisle have fond memories of St. James. We hold you as precious in our hearts and in our prayers.